Hi people, it's Archivist here, and today I want to give my final thoughts on the Modern Warfare beta for the first weekend at least. And unfortunately I came home today and I thought the beta would be around for a few more hours, but it was over quite tragically, so I have to reuse some footage here. But I wanted to address a very specific topic, and that was on the pace of the game. A prevailing impression of this game is that it is slow paced. I would, from my personal experience, strongly refute this. And not only do I think it's not slow paced, I would say it's faster paced than a lot of Call of Duty games that have come before it. Even though, in terms of how fast you can physically move, isn't particularly quick necessarily. It's not like you can zip around the map on jetpacks. The actual engagements themselves, when you come face to face with an enemy, are over in such a short amount of time that they demand the fastest reactions that you can possibly muster, meaning that really, if I was to describe the game, I would say it was extraordinarily quick. And I don't think it's a game that values a tactical mind as much as I would say it values a reactive mind, one that can assess a threat within a few seconds and decide the best course of action. And I think the reason that people think that it is a slow-paced game is because you can die so quickly, it forces you to hide around in corners. But when you really apply some critical thinking to that, yes, you can die quickly, but you can also kill quickly. Everyone is on the same page, meaning that really, realistically, there's no less reason than other Call of Duty games to move at a quick pace. What you don't want to do though is move through the kill zones in this game. And let me explain what I mean by kill zones. So, in any Call of Duty game, you can be shot from multiple angles. You can get shot in the back, the front, above, beneath sometimes, what have you. And in this game, there are many angles you can get shot from. However, what you need to learn to do is to avoid the areas of the map that are worse for this, or at least if you're going to move through them, do it extremely fast. A lot of people, although I don't have footage for it unfortunately, have played on the biggest map available in this beta, which has these large open road areas, and if you stand in that road, as has been shown in this rather notorious tweet, there are many angles that you can get shot from. And I would agree that yes, if you stand there, it would be impossibly hard to predict where you'll get shot from. So naturally, the way to mentally outsmart that is to think, well, how can I avoid putting myself in that situation? How can I avoid these kill zones where I am extremely vulnerable if I stand there? And I think that's where knowledge of the maps and the layout in this game might be more important than it's ever been. It's not just about knowing the power positions, it's about knowing how do I flank those power positions, how do I avoid standing in the sights of those power positions, and how can I use them to best of my advantage, and how long should I stay there before I know that I'm going to get flanked myself. There are so many variables to consider. And again, getting back to the pace of the game, I have seen so many people play this game aggressively, quickly moving around the map with an SMG and doing it extremely successfully. In fact, I would say that when I've seen someone go on a really strong, advantageous killing streak, it's usually been an aggressive player with an SMG or just a really quick to aim down the sight assault rifle. And the way you can get away with it, which I say merely from observing the best players who play this game, is to move quickly, but move far away from the kill zones. Don't go into the center of the map when you rush. Rush through buildings, move through alleyways quickly. Try to avoid the super sprint if you can, because the ability to move from that into aiming is quite long. But so long as you stick to the safe areas of the map, and that's only something you can know from playing the game, you should be okay. There's also the element of the spawning in this game. It can be quite chaotic, especially on the smaller maps. Many a time I've found it where I've moved forward, wiped someone out, and then they very quickly spawn behind me and kill me. I think the best way to deal with that is to know roughly, as of the enemy team being wiped from one side of the map, are they now likely to be behind me? When I first started playing this game, it felt 100% random as to where they were, but the more I played it, the more I felt that because we had just taken them out and we had wiped them off this side of the map, there's a fair chance they are now behind me, and therefore it is more important that I turn around and defend my flank rather than continuing to move forward. So there's an element of anticipating where the spawns are now. Don't get me wrong, there's no way someone is good enough to 100% predict where people are spawning, but you can certainly develop a bit of an instinct for it. And people forget that Call of Duty is highly dependent on people's motor reactions, and motor reactions are defined by learning. And you can only learn if you experience failure and success in equal tandem. So we've only had a little bit of time to play this game, to learn the maps, to understand the worst places to stand, the best places. And the chances are people were obliterated during this early time of the game because very few people know the maps, meaning it's a far more random experience. But as the collective consciousness is updated and we understand where these flanks are and where these kill zones are, people will be far more comfortable with moving forward, as it seems some people already are, moving quickly around the map and at pace. And I think for this reason, again, I do not consider it to be a slow-paced game. I mean, if you want to say literally, are you moving slower than some Call of Duties like Black Ops 3 and Advanced Warfare? Yes, in that literal sense, you are moving slower. But in terms of the engagements themselves, they are not slow-paced. There are games out there that do have extremely tactical long-range combat. I mean, I would say the Battlefield on the bigger maps is far more slower-paced than this. And I suppose playing those other games is what, in a relative sense, makes me want to say that, no, this is not slow-paced. It's a bit like when people describe Black Ops 4 as having a high time to kill. Yes, it does relative to other Call of Duty games, but not relative to the rest of the first-person shooter genre. As in the same way that, yes, this game is perhaps in some respects slightly slower paced, but again, relative to the shooter genre as a whole, it's still incredibly quick. I think what also adds to this, which perhaps I have the slightest bit of criticism for, is that the aim assist in this game is exceptionally generous, to the point where when you see someone, it's pretty much a case of aim down sight, start shooting, and you don't have to do too much. A lot of my headshots that I got, I will be completely honest, I wasn't going for a headshot, I was just trying to kill them, and the aim assist was good enough to point me right at their head and get them. So I wonder if they can dial back the aim assist a little bit. I did notice that there were multiple settings for aim assist in this, and I'm curious as to whether they did that because they wanted to see what people would like the most. There was like precision, standard, and another one you could use. I just stuck with the default precision, but using that one, it felt really, really powerful. It was almost like playing a GTA game, which has a very overt lock-on system. So maybe that's something that could be dialed back a little bit. I fully appreciate that on consoles at least, aim assist has always been in Call of Duty games, it really has. But for whatever reason, I wish I could be more articulate about why, but it felt a little bit more prominent in this game to the point where I felt like I wasn't having to aim. And look, I don't want to have all the skill taken out of my gunfights, right? I'd rather actually have to aim. But if you are looking for a fast-paced experience, then that very much falls in favour of the idea that this game is very quick. And yeah, those are my final points. I just wanted to talk about how I disagree that this is a slow-paced game. As always, people, thanks very much for watching and see you next time.